I was in high school, I had a job delivering pizzas. It was just a fantastic job. You know, it was actually for a locally owned mom and pop place. But we were on the edge of a big neighborhood, and we didn't have any of the big chains had come in there yet. It was very new construction over there, and so we were very busy, and we had some very loyal customers, and the pay was very good, especially for that age. You know, when you're in high school and you really just don't have any expenses, really. You know, making $9, $10, $11, $12 an hour, sometimes even a little bit more. It's just pretty fantastic. You know, we pretty much come home every night after working with a couple of new 20s in my pocket and a paycheck coming on Monday. So it was great work. And I said, I spent most of the time driving around the neighborhood, listening to music, and you know, there was when we didn't have a delivery up, there was some stuff to do at the restaurant too. But most of the time, I listened to a lot of music, and because I had quite a bit of money, I was burning through some CDs pretty quickly, and ended up with a very, very good 90s music collection. And you know, the strange thing is, and this happens when you're listening to music a lot, despite the fact that I was buying new music pretty much every week, the stuff I got, I learned very well, and I find that, like, even the stuff that I didn't think was all that great, when if I play those albums now, I still know them. And so, you know, they didn't last in my rotation very long, but they still lasted long enough for me to listen through that thing several times. And I found that in the stuff that I've bought since then, it's like I have bought far less music in the last 10 years than I did probably in that single year. And I don't know, or I found I didn't know very much of it at all. And honestly, man, I feel like I'm missing out on something. I feel like I'm missing out on that just intimate knowledge of this band and this album, and getting to know it very, very well. And to this day, you know, if I put in one of those discs that I had practically memorized back on the road delivering pizzas, it still brings me more joy than something that might technically be better, but I don't know very well. No. So, all that being said, it struck me that I have too much music. I'm getting too much music. And even though I'm buying it at a slower pace, I'm buying too much. And the reason I say that is because, you know, I found that there was stuff in my collection that I bought it and I listened to it, and it was like, okay, yeah, that's really good. And I'd move on to something else, and maybe I'd listen to it again later. And it really got to the point where one day, and this was a couple of years ago, one day I just put my whole music collection on random, and it came to a song, and I didn't have the foggiest clue who sang it or what this song was. No clue. I'm like listening to it, and I'm like, this feels like the first time I'm listening to it. And I looked at the screen on my iPod, and it was a band I knew very well. You know, it's an established band. I've been listening to them for years. This was their latest release, and so it's the one that I had bought most recently, obviously, and didn't know nearly as well. But I had listened to that song already a couple of times, and so I was really kind of going into this like self-examining state of, if I've listened to this song a couple of times already, why don't I know it very well? I didn't know it very well because I bought that album. I had played it through, while I was driving to work or something. A few months later, I played it again, but I had never taken the time or energy to dig into the album to really listen through it. I was really beginning to wonder whether that light was ever going to change. So this is what I came up with. I started making a list of albums that were new or that I had maybe gotten in the last few years, but I just didn't know. And I resolved that if I got a new album or, going through that list, that I would listen to this album 4 times through. It didn't have to be in a row, I didn't have to sit down for 4 hours just listening to the album. But I wasn't going to go to something else before I did that, before I listened through 4 times. And the reason I picked 4 was because on the first time through, of course, everything is new. It's like, you're listening for the first time. It's just very, very surface level. It's like, okay, that's a good song. Maybe one I've heard on the radio or something, but most of it is brand new to me. The second time, I'm starting to recognize the tunes. The third time, I'm really starting to get to know them. And by the 4th time, I'm able to really kind of study what each of the instruments are doing, and really starting to pick apart the song. And I'm finally, by the end of the 4th time, I'm really getting to know it, and I'm really starting to appreciate what the band is doing on it. And I've really felt like this has been very, very good for me. It's been a year or so since I started doing this, and I went back and played one of the albums that I started with a year or so ago, and I'm finding I'm retaining it. I'm still, I play it. I'm still, anticipating the next song. I still know what's coming next. I still know what all the instruments are doing. I don't have all the lyrics memorized like I do on those discs that I played, 30 times in the car delivering pizzas. But I found that I really got a good handle on the music. And honestly, I'm having a lot more joy in it. So I bring this up, and I'm going to have to split this up into a couple of videos because I'm doing a similar thing with books, or starting to, and it's all kind of centered around this idea that I've been getting in my head that we have too much media, and I don't mean society has too much media. I think society has just a decent, fine level of media. Now it could be better, but what are you gonna do? I'm talking about me personally. I'm talking about probably you. I'm talking on the individual level, because this is what I'm doing. I'm finding on Facebook, somebody shares a link for a free book that I'm moderately interested in to not very interested in, but it's a free offer and I'm snagging it and I'm never reading it. And it's the same with music. It's like, hey, this band, this compilation, it's free. I'm moderately interested in it, maybe not interested in it at all, but it's free. Throw it on my iPod. There used to be, several years ago, I had like podcasts set up of free music, and I was recently going through iTunes, just going through these single songs that I have from these bands I've never heard of, never bothered following up on. And some of these tunes I really like. Some of them I rated 3 stars out of 5, and I'm sitting there, like, why did I even keep a song that's from a band I don't listen to? That's a 3-star out of 5-star song. Why am I even keeping that? Like, I mean, you know, if you're listening through an album, you're gonna run into the 3-star songs, right? But that's not what you went there for. You went there for the experience of the album. I'm not going to go to this band that I still have never heard of to listen to an okay to decent song. And so I just started deleting them all. And I went through a lot of songs. And I started going through some albums that I don't really honestly like very much, but I mean I had a real problem that once buying a CD that I could not. I was kind of a CD and book hoarder, honestly, but I couldn't just say to myself, I was like, okay, I'm never going to listen to this thing again. I don't necessarily even want to. I mean, it's not a matter of like, oh, I really like to get back to it. It's like, that was okay, but I could spend my time with better music. And so I started deleting the MP3s off of it and setting the CDs aside to sell. And I haven't missed any of them. You know, I have never gone to my iPod going, hey, where's that halfway mediocre album from by so and so that I bought 20 years ago and never played again. Shoot, what did I do? Oh, I deleted that. That's a shame. I haven't missed them. But in the meanwhile, I'm actually digging. I'm starting to dig back into music again and really study music again, and I'm really enjoying it. So, we've got to spend some time talking about these things. And so I'm gonna follow this up with another probably couple of parts. But the point of it is that I need to be more disciplined in what I'm feeding myself musically. I've got to be more disciplined in picking out some stuff that's really good, and not necessarily. I don't need to study everything that's really good. There's too much, and I need to be content with listening to a few things that are really good and getting to know them very well, instead of listening to a lot of things that are really good but not really knowing them at all. So that's the goal from here on out. And I'm going to talk a little bit about doing the same thing with books, and then I want to get more into this idea of not having our media consumption being 12 miles wide and an inch deep, but much, much deeper and much more focused.